Lane Kiffin has done a lot of great things for the Ole Miss Rebels, and this year it'll be fun to see if he can get this team back to 10 wins. Today, we take a deep dive into the Ole Miss Rebels to see what we should expect from them in 2025. Now, Kiffin has done a lot of exciting things, from his embrace of the transfer portal, from all of his different viral comments and tweets and whatnot. This has been someone that's fun to watch, and this is an Ole Miss team that got really close to the college football playoff last year. Now they turn the keys over to the offense to Austin Simmons, and it's going to be really interesting to see if he's able to take this team to the level that Jackson Dart did. Now, Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr. have done a lot of good things for this offense. The defense run by Pete Golding has been kind of underappreciated, I think, but this is a team that is hoping to get back to where they were almost to last year. The playoff is obviously where everybody wants to end up, but not everybody's going to get there. And sometimes it's really hard to do if you don't have a ton of continuity. And this year it feels like this team has more than we've seen in the past, though they did use the transfer portal quite a bit once again. Now, you do lose quite a bit of NFL talent. You lose Jackson Dart, obviously. I think that losing him is the biggest loss of the team. You also lose Juice Wells, Trey Harris, Jared Ivey, Walter Nolan. You lose a number of players that made a big time impact in 2024, and it's going to be tough to replace some of those guys. That being said, this team obviously knows how to get in certain players and how to get players from the transfer portal, and they obviously do a good job of evaluating talent that isn't necessarily on everyone's radar. So you bring in certain players that are going to be maybe projects in a certain regard, but also they've shown things that are really exciting. You also bring in talent that is from other Power Four schools. So guys like Harrison Wallace and Dejon Stribling are going to be really fun to watch at wide receiver. A guy like Traylon Ray has the tools to be really exciting. Same thing with Caleb Odom. Those are wide receivers that maybe aren't as proven, but have the ability to compete at this level. I think that you feel pretty good about the talent you bring in. We're going to dive obviously more into each of those players here in a little bit as we go position by position, because there's a lot. You can't fit it all on one screen, but this is a team that's going to have new faces year in and year out. This year, though, you feel pretty good about at least the starting lineup, the familiar faces that you'll recognize if you're an Ole Miss fan. One of those guys is Austin Simmons. He's not a returning starter, but you saw him last year. The Georgia game is a perfect example of why people are really excited for him in 2025. The lefty is really talented, plays baseball. He has the ability to make all the throws that you need him to make. And now you put him in a Lane Kiffin offense full time. There's a reason why people are excited, and that's exactly it. Now, 282 yards and 2 touchdowns. If you look purely on his numbers, you're not going to be excited about it. But he's 6'4", 215 pounds. And if you give him a full season, you feel like you're in a great position to have a ton of success once again in 2024. You also bring in, this is where we talk about developing certain players. Trinidad Chambliss comes in from Ferris State. That's a team that won the national championship at the Division II level. This guy had a ton of production for that team last year. Over 2,900 yards passing, 26 touchdowns. He also rushed for over 1,000 yards and 25 more scores. Now, he's probably not going to beat out Austin Simmons for the starting job, but that's a good backup to have, especially when you have a true freshman in AJ Maddox that's not quite ready to see the spotlight. But I think Austin Simmons is going to have a special year. I think that we are going to see what makes him a truly talented player, and there might be some growing pains. There might be some things that he needs to sort out, but this is a guy who has shown that he can make big throws against teams like Georgia. And yes, it was a small sample size, but he's also shown that he can do it. So it's not like we don't have any proof that he's able to do certain things. We know he can do it. It's just, can you do that for an entire season? I trust that Lane Kiffin will scheme things up. I trust that they'll put him in good positions to make plays. And that's really stuff that you just have to go on. You have to put trust in Lane Kiffin to give his quarterback a chance to make plays, to be in a good position, to do great things. And Austin Simmons has the talent to do that. The running back position will look a little bit different. You have a lot of new faces, even if they're returning. A guy like Logan Diggs only played in one game last year. He is someone that'll be part of this rotation. Kewan Lacey comes in from Missouri, only had 23 carries for 140 yards. Damian Taylor comes in from Troy, 173 rushes for over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. So while he is not, he's got a ton of production, but he comes in from Troy. He's definitely got the talent to be able to be part of this rotation as well. That's the group that I think if you're looking for this team to be balanced, it's going to be who's going to take over at the running back spot, who's going to be that lead rusher that can get the job done on a consistent basis. Diggs is super talented, came from LSU. He has the ability to make big plays. He's 6'1", 215 pounds. Kewan Lacey is a really exciting player. Damian Taylor is that veteran that is productive and knows how to be consistent, but doesn't necessarily have the ceiling of the other two. That's, I think, a good combination to have, and it's going to be a reason why this rushing attack could be really exciting in 2025. I think that Lane Kiffin knows that the rushing attack is going to be part of it, but right now you don't necessarily know who's going to be that starter. So maybe you have some questions about this team in terms of how they're going to run the football early on. We'll obviously dive in the schedule and see how that might give them time to get things sorted out. But eventually you're going to have to figure that out. You have good options. It's just a question of who's going to be that guy. Giving Austin Simmons plenty of playmakers to throw to downfield was another thing that this team needed to do. And when you lost the amount of talent you did at wide receiver, you lost Juice Wells, you lost Trey Harris, you lost Jordan Watkins, you lost a number of players that produced really well for you last year, and you have to find guys that are able to replace them. You do bring back Caden Lee, a guy who emerged really big for this team last year, 57 catches for 874 yards and 2 touchdowns. You also bring in Dejon Stribling, who was good for a bad Oklahoma State team, 52 catches, 882 yards and 6 touchdowns. He made explosive plays. Harrison Wallace was good for Penn State, but I think a lot of people thought that he was kind of the reason, or not the reason, but a reason why the passing attack struggled besides Drew Aller. That the wide receiver group, I think, had a lot of questions at Penn State, so he got a lot of criticism for his abilities. But when you look at his numbers, 46 receptions for 720 yards and 4 touchdowns last year for Penn State. I think that's a guy who has the ability. I think that's a guy that's going to really thrive in Lane Kiffin's offense as well. He's going to see a lot of favorable matchups that he can exploit one-on-one, and he has the talent around him that's going to open things up for him as well. Daquan Wright is another player to keep an eye on at the tight end position. 27 catches for 394 yards and 4 touchdowns. If one of these wide receivers can't step up, maybe a guy like Daquan Wright can be that guy, can be the reliable player for Austin Simmons. Somebody else is going to be the go-to option for Austin Simmons. It's just going to be a matter of who it is, whether it's a wide receiver or a tight end. Luke Haas comes in from Arkansas, 324 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's good depth. Behind Daquan Wright, you also bring in Trace Bruckler from New Mexico, 138 yards and 2 touchdowns for him. The depth at wide receiver is full of potential. Traylon Ray and Caleb Odom have big time ability. It'll just come down to, are they able to take their games to the next level? Or are they able to step up? Deuce Alexander comes in from Wake Forest. He is another guy to keep an eye on there. Devin Price comes in from FAU. And then after that, you have some freshmen that maybe are able to be part of this rotation as well. Overall, you have good depth. Overall, you have plenty of talent. It's not a matter of a lack of talent. There's definitely not a lack of production. It's just going to come down to which guys are the starters. I think right now, Stribling, Wallace, and Lee are going to be your first 3. After that, it's just going to be a combination of Odom, Alexander, Ray, Price, or somebody younger that is going to be able to step up. The tight end position, I think, will take that step and be more part of the offense this year. Maybe not as explosive, but you definitely have guys that are capable of making big plays. It just might look a little bit different than it did last year. But again, Lane Kiffin's running the show, so you feel like you should be in a really good position to make that happen. The offensive line has a ton of pressure on them as well. This is how they're going to continue making big plays, though you do have 3 familiar faces that are returning. The 2 new faces are PJ Wilkins and Patrick Kutas. You have PJ Wilkins coming in from Charlotte, started 11 games for the 49ers last year, comes in at 6'7", 340 pounds. Kutas comes in from Arkansas, started 4 games last year for the Razorbacks, and those 2 will be really fun on the interior to help Bryson Sanders, who is coming in to start for the first time in his career. He'll be really fun to watch. The interior is going to be a big X factor for this offensive line. Diego Pound started 9 games last year. Javen Williams is going to be a really fun player to watch as well. Only started 4 games last year, but has a ton of experience in his career and someone who is, I think, I should say, has a bright future in terms of potentially playing in the NFL and being a really good player in the SEC. I think he has all of the ability in the world, and I think that he'll be a really fun player to watch for this offensive line. That's ultimately what's going to be a big time impact on this team, is how well do the offensive linemen play and how are they able to make sure that good things happen in 2025, because you have a new quarterback that might need some time. You have a quarterback that might need a little bit of extra space to make some throws. That's okay. You have guys that are capable of keeping him upright, and you also have depth behind them that, even though they're new, has plenty of experience. So Percy Lewis comes in from Auburn, plenty of experience there. Terez Davis comes in from Maryland. Delano Townsend comes in from UAB. You have 3 new faces that have good experience at their previous schools, and that helps them get acclimated to playing at their new school. It might be a step up for a couple of them, but overall, you feel really good about the depth. And again, that might take some time for everybody to gel, but overall, I think that this is a team that's in a good position to make things happen and understand that they're in a good position to get back to where they need to be or get back where they want to be. And winning games at a high level will come because this is a team and a staff that knows how to put together a roster, and you have a little bit more continuity than maybe you've had in years past. The defense is kind of the same. Things up front look really good. You have a number of returning faces that you should know and understand what they're capable of doing. Now, you do lose quite a bit of NFL talent up front, but you also have certain players that you're excited for. Suntarine Perkins coming back was a huge return, obviously. No, he probably could have gone to a number of schools, but obviously Ole Miss has their stuff together and they kept him around. 60 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 10.5 sacks. Who steps up around him is probably the biggest question for this defensive line. Cam Franklin would be opposite of him. He'll get plenty of opportunities to make some plays. 11 tackles last year, 5 tackles for loss. Those numbers should increase because teams are going to have to worry about how do you slow down Perkins? How do you make sure that he's not making an impact? Franklin has an opportunity that a lot of people don't get to see. Deshaun Womack's an LSU transfer that could be a part of that as well. Maybe Prince William Mielen is going to be part of that. Maybe he'll be behind Perkins. We'll see. There are plenty of guys that are going to get their chances to showcase their talent and show that, hey, I can be that next guy that steps up in a big role and elevates this defense to a level that we saw last year that was pretty exciting at times. You also have interior talent that is going to play a big role as well, because behind them is a lot of younger talent that's inexperienced. Xavier Harris had 32 tackles, 5 tackles for loss. He's 6'7", 320 pounds. Demarius Brown, 20 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. Behind them, William Eccles is going to be someone that plays a role. 9 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss. After that, you have a lot of young players. So whether it's a Cameron Beavers, Jeffrey Rush, Andrew Maddox, if one of those guys is ready, then they're going to get time. But you probably would rather not have to go to a freshman this early in their career, especially with the expectations that this team has in 2025. I think that you're looking at a group of edge players that are ready to make an impact, and the starters for the interior are good. It's just going to come down to depth behind them. And in the SEC and making a run in the college football playoff era, you need depth. You need guys that are ready to go, and you need healthy players. And you're going to sustain injuries at some point. That's where you maybe have some concerns about this team up front. But overall, the talent level is there. The linebacker position is in a good place, I think. Overall, you do bring in some players that are new, but they were productive at their previous schools. So TJ Daugherty coming back, 76 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. He is the returner that you can lean on, getting these other guys up to speed. Same with like a Tyler Banks, who will push for time. Jaden Yates was really interesting for Marshall, and making that jump to Ole Miss was kind of surprising, but this staff likes what he brings to the table. 120 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 2 fumble recoveries last year. he'll lean on some of those returning guys, Daugherty and Banks, to get up to speed on how they do things in Pete Golding's system. You bring in Andrew Jones, who is productive at Grambling, 122 tackles, 20 and a half tackles for loss, 3 sacks. Very productive at that level. The question with him is just going to be, can you take it to the level which is going to be the SEC? Same thing with Josh Chambers, who comes in from Missouri State, 88 tackles, 7 tackles for loss. So another productive player, but someone who, if he's able to take that production and bring it to the SEC and do the same thing, you're going to looking at a really good player that has a ton of potential to have a huge impact on this team. So the linebacker position, I think, is in a good place. Yeah, you have some new players, but I think if the group up front takes care of business and the linebackers just play to what they're capable of playing, then this front group is in a good place. The secondary might need some time to get things sorted out. So you might need that front group to play at that level. You have a bunch of new faces coming in, and you have a lot of potential excitement. It's just going to take some time to get things sorted out. So the cornerback position, you see Chris Graves as the lone returner in the starting lineup, but you also get a guy in Jalen Braxton who didn't play last year for a ton for Arkansas, but he is someone that if he is able to stay on the field for an entire season, then he is going to make a big time impact for his new team. And he gets to play with a bunch of talented players. Graves is one of them, and they really like what he's capable of doing. The safety position will feature Sage Ryan, comes in from LSU, 42 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 5 passes defended, 1 interception, 3 forced fumbles. You also bring in Wyatt Williams from UL Monroe, 90 tackles for him, 5 tackles for loss, 4 passes defended, and 3 interceptions. I think that the safety position might need some time to gel with each other. Ryan and Williams are very new to each other, even though they were in the same state. They come from very different places. Anthony Robinson and Nick Hull could play a part of that as well. So you have some younger guys and some inexperienced players that are at the safety position that you might have to rely on this season. Behind the cornerbacks, TJ Banks is back. You also bring in Tavoy Fegan from Clemson. So a guy who has potential ability. It's just a matter of if he can take his game to the level that it needs to be to start for this team. You also bring in Ricky Fletcher from South Alabama, 38 tackles for him, 12 passes defended. So again, this is a staff that brings in a ton of talent, whether that's from the transfer portal. They also bring in some players that are from the high school level that might have to step up right away. This might be a group that has to grow up a little bit, and that might take some time to sort things out. But I think that there's still a relative level of production and success that you should expect from this team in 2025. I think as long as Lane Kiffin is running the show, you have a certain floor that you expect to meet. And we'll see that probably again. The win total right now is set at 8.5. I think at best, 10-2 is the ceiling, 7-5 is the floor to me. And I think that in the SEC, that's still not bad. You start the year with Georgia State before you go to Kentucky and host Arkansas. It feels wrong to have that many SEC opponents early in the season, but it is what it is. You also host Tulane within the first month and play LSU. That's going to be a tough test. Honestly, Tulane will give you a run for your money, but I do feel confident about Ole Miss's abilities in that one. It's just early in the season, and facing John Summerall is never fun that early in the year. You also face LSU, so we'll kind of get a measuring stick of where this team stands heading into October. You get a bye week to start October before you host Washington State. Then you go to Georgia, to Oklahoma, and host South Carolina. That is a tough 3-game stretch. But at that point, if this team's not ready for it, they probably would have never been ready for it. But if they are, those 3 games will be really interesting, especially we'll see how well Austin Simmons can play. You play the Citadel, then you play Florida before a bye week, and then you head to Mississippi State. So the middle of the schedule is the toughest part. The front and the back ends will provide plenty of wins. That's why you feel pretty good about this team, even if you have turnover at certain spots. So 24% of you think they're going to finish 1st through 4th. That would be incredible. I think that would be a really good performance from Lane Kiffin, and even more impressive than what they did last year. 66% of you say 5th through 8th, 4% 9th through 12th, 6% 13th through 16th. Overall, this is still a team that should finish in the top half of the SEC. Yes, there is plenty of turnover. Yes, there is plenty of things to sort out. Austin Simmons is going to be really fun to watch. I think in the end, playing in a Lane Kiffin offense, you just need the right quarterback there. Austin Simmons has the talent to make that happen. He has the ability to make plays. I'm curious to see how they use Trinidad Chambliss, and I'm curious to see how they handle the middle of the schedule. LSU, Georgia, Oklahoma, and South Carolina are going to be difficult. The Florida game obviously is challenging as well. So I think overall, it's not a terrible schedule in terms of SEC standards, but overall, there is plenty of challenges that present themselves on this schedule. There are plenty of opportunities for growth. There are plenty of obstacles for this team to overcome. And this is going to be a fun team nonetheless. If they're able to get through some of their growing pains and able to sort things out in terms of starters, in terms of depth, this is a team that has the potential to be really fun. If they are able to figure things out, and Austin Simmons truly is the guy, Lane Kiffin's going to have a lot of fun once again in 2025.